Angus, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Jim.
How about that? 2 weeks
Amazing.
in a row. Thank you. Sorry, I've been a problem.
No, you're fine. I'm gonna make you a co-host, Jim, so you can pull people over from the attendee room if you'd like.
Calcium levels in trauma patients on administrations for NTP activate.
Okay. You good? Hey, are you guys all there? Sorry about this. Been an interesting morning trying to field a lot of stuff that's going on. Let's see, where are we? Okay, we got who's this? Alrighty. Let's see. Good group. Okay, David, are you on then? I want to make sure you got on okay, because I know you're having an issue.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah. How are you doing on time?
I'm good for time.
At least what, 3 minutes? Right? Till you get
I
called.
got 30 to 45.
Hey, this is good that you have power in your you actually have power at your office. That's good. So how about at home? It's not in yet, right? Right. But maybe they're thinking maybe tomorrow.
We've been told throughout next week sometime.
Oh, geez, that's awful. I'm sorry to hear that. So that's what can I say? All right, let me promote a few people over here, as they say. More. Okay. Okay, here we go. Oh, I'm not allowed to upgrade people, so that's too bad. Okay.
Yes, you are.
Okay, let's try it now. Yeah, now I can. Okay, good. All right. There's Eric. Okay, thank you so much. All right. So let's do this. Let's see who's around. Anybody have time limitations today? Besides David, who I understand why he has time limitations.
I do, Paul.
Jim Augustine, I'm on for 60 minutes.
6-0. Okay, got it. That's
6-0.
fine. I'll have a lot of this done within the next 6-0. Who is the other person?
It's Crawford. I'm off around noon or so.
Okay, got it. Okay, got it. So
I have to
welcome
jump up
you.
and-
I'll come to you next after David. All right. And let's see who else we got here. All righty. Okay, let's see. Participant list. I'm looking at it now. Panelists. Here we go. Let's see who all is here. Hey, Julian, how are you doing? Thanks again for helping us out here. Appreciate it. Being here. Hey, and Dr. Jenkins. Okay. Eric, good to see you guys. And Dr. Duchesne's on with us too. I thought I saw. Is Juan still there? Well, maybe not. Okay. Randy, how are you? Sounds like we have a lot of blood people here today, so that's good. I'd like to hear what the latest is on from your end as well. So that would be really good. All right, let's go back to the attendee list. All right, let's go ahead and get started with everybody. And first of all, Fiona, how are you doing on time?
So I'm here for about 30, 40 minutes, Paul.
Okay, good. I'll get to you early as well. And Mick, how about you?
Sorry,
All
I
right.
have to keep pressing the button, Paul. No time issues. Sit here fine.
Okay, fantastic then. Okay, good. All right, and then David, are you out of country or where are you? I thought you were out of the country, I thought, for some reason.
I'm in Costa Rica today. I got sketchy internet.
Okay, sketchy. Okay, good to know then. All right, yeah, making a true international meeting. We've got Europe and the what do you call it? Central America as well. All right, so good. Let's go ahead and get started with David because he maybe got called out at any time now. So you may or not be aware of it. It was actually a sort of a lower category hurricane, but it brushed through Houston, but enough to really cause significant flooding there, but more importantly, power. And I'd like to learn a bit more about that and what's the effect, not only on EMS, but what's the effect on what you need to do and what happens there. Like, for example, if people have home respirators or getting dialysis or whatever, tell us about that, David, if you don't mind. So one thing as a setup for everyone else, if you don't know that Dr. Purse has been there as the director of emergency medical services system. So it's a report to the mayor there in Houston. He's been doing it since only 1996, right, David? And then also because he was so good, I mean, seriously, such a great leader during various past hurricanes that he's been actually made the public health director, and he was just instrumental in helping out Houston through the pandemic as well. And so just one of the people I admire the most and has an amazing job and usually devotes this day to his wife. But today we're kind of busy out there taking care of the populace. So David, take it away. Tell us a little bit about what happened and what's happening and what you plan to do next.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to thank David Miramontes because this storm was supposed to go towards San Antonio, but apparently he passed a sufficient amount of gas or did something that sent it further east. And of course, he's in Costa Rica, wherever the hell he is, and still has the cosmic power to send the hurricane to another community. So thank you, David. You will not be
You're
forgotten.
welcome.
So all kidding aside, so on one hand, this was only a Category 1 hurricane, which really shouldn't be that big of a deal for a place that gets hurricanes all the time. A number of lessons to be learned that I want to get to, and part of it is I tell a story. It's like I almost don't know where to begin. So the hurricane was supposed to go really through the eye was supposed to go between Houston and San Antonio through a more rural part of Texas, and then it took a right-hand turn, and the eye of the hurricane literally went over downtown Houston and over the Texas Medical Center. And for those of you who know Houston, we've got like all of our biggest hospitals are basically, in the same block, if you will. And then we have smaller hospitals out further. They're going to be bigger as time goes on, but we have our big brain trust and all of our hospital beds and everything. It's a really good idea. Both of our level 1 trauma centers are immediately next door to each other. Another really good idea. If you're going to do the city planning, I would absolutely recommend you put all your cardiac centers, all your stroke centers, all your trauma centers, try to get them as close together as possible. And then put that into, near downtown where the traffic is going to be most easily navigated. So really good ideas. Oh, and then in
I
addition,
mentioned the European sarcastic, David, just in
yeah,
case.
yeah. And then in addition, just to make sure it's put a great big river, we call them bayous here, but put a great
Right.
big river to go right through the middle of that. It'll just make your life so much more entertaining.
Yeah.
So
What's
anyway,
interesting, David, as a sidebar, at least when I was there, and I bet you it's worse now, there was at least 100,000 people coming in on a day-to-day basis into that area, correct? In
Oh,
terms
yeah.
of workers alone, correct?
yeah, there's more traffic there than, well, I mean, it's just enormous. And then the other thing is, of course, we got people from around the world, so there's lots of hotels there for all the, across the nation and international travelers. So a lot of the people that are treated there aren't even Texans. They're literally from around the globe. So so anyway, so the storm comes in, it takes this right-hand turn that we weren't anticipating. A lot of rain. Really, the wind was what has caused most of the damage, and most of the damage has really been trees taking down power lines. We did have flooding. Always got flooding here in Houston, so we did have flooding, but it's really been the power has been the deal. One hospital in Brazos County, right immediately next to Harris County that Houston sits in, that lost the roof to the entire hospital, so they're offline. Couple of things that have happened. So hospitals, as you know, your hospitals are already pretty crowded, which is a whole nother conversation. So they're jam-packed to begin with. Our hospitals, because they weren't anticipating a direct hit, did not reduce the census in the hospitals. We thought they'd be able to get by. That was a mistake in retrospect. They should have dropped the census. One of our biggest problems now has been that, more people are coming to the hospital because you get that after a storm, coming to the ER, whether they're sick, injured, they just want air conditioning, they just want power, they just want someplace safe to be. And so that's been jamming up the air. But what wasn't anticipated is the back end of the hospital. You can't discharge a patient to a home that has no power when they're just 2 days post-op for their cholecystectomy or whatever, what have you. The city of Houston has a population around 2.2 million. At one point, we had about 1.6 million with no power, which is what, like 80% of the population or the customers had no power. As of this morning, we're down to only 800,000. So only a third of the customers within the city limits of Houston have no power here 5 days later. All of the easy fixes have been done. That's what the power provider is telling us. So now it'll be a slow trickle of getting more customers online. And they expect that it will be another week before they get everything back on board. So that then has issues for people at home that are on oxygen generators or concentrators, all of the medical durable equipment sorts of things. We usually will send those in the city, we'll take what we call our multi-service centers. So these are health department buildings where we provide, community organization space to operate, and it's really a multi-service building. So we have 9 of those. Only one has power or had power. Another one eventually came on with power in a day or two, but the air conditioning didn't work. And none of those have generators. The mayor is super irritated about the fact that none of those have generators. We've got like 90 fire stations this morning. 30 of those remain on generator power. So a third of the fire stations, 2 of them are closed due to damage to the buildings and no power, no water. Let me get to lessons learned. So the emergency departments are overwhelmed. Call volume goes up. Hospitals can't offload patients. So what have we done? So the
Hey,
state.
David, before we go any further, so your call volume went up. Is it a generic call volume went up, or was it for specific things? And what were some of the specific challenges, such as the person on, I don't know, ventilators, or, hey, David, we're hearing you make some noise there, just so you know, David Miramontes. And people on, home respirators or home, whatever, those kinds of things. If you don't mind me doing that before we get to how you're fixing it, okay?
Yeah, so the increase in call volume immediately afterwards has really been, so in the first 24 to 48 hours, it was just the usual sort of worried well that were going there, seeking power and shelter, and just because they didn't have power. So that was what we've seen so far. Since then, we've seen a really big increase in our carbon monoxide exposures, more than we've ever seen here in Houston before. And that's people, using the generator in the garage with the garage door up. Of course, that's not enough. We've seen a big increase, not a surprise, of dialysis, because all the dialysis centers are offline.
Yeah.
And the dialysis centers do a good job of having each other's back during these disasters, but when they're all offline, they can't, right? So a lot of dialysis, we're now starting to see, not a big surprise, the heat related, but it's complicated this time because what we're seeing are younger people getting heat related complications because they go out, they try to clear the brush, they try to do whatever, they go inside, they have a couple drinks of water, they rest for an hour, but they're in a hot house. They're not in
Right.
an air conditioned house that they would have been any other time. And then they go back out and try it again and they're getting themselves in trouble. So our heat related is just skyrocketed.
Interesting.
And much more than what we usually get. And we, of course, we always usually get a lot of that, right? But this is way more than usual.
Okay.
The
Thanks.
dialysis
I just
center-
wanted to give people
Yeah.
a feel for what you're seeing. That's why. Okay. So
Yeah.
thank you.
So what have we done? So the state has provided us with a bunch of ambulances from across the state to come in. What did we do with them? Well, the first thing we did was we got down to 0% EMS availability. We had no ambulances available for the next 911 call. So the first thing we did is we took 10 of them and we put them into the street, responding to our calls. Of course, they don't know Houston. They're from, Okefenokee Falls, Texas. They don't know. So what we did was we put them at 5 of our supervisor stations, considered like 5 points on a star. And when engines would go out by themselves, because we had no ambulance to put with them, and they would get somebody that needed transport, we had a communication setup that they could get. They don't have our radios, they don't have our radio frequencies, cell towers are down, cell communication was lousy. So we figured out a way for them to get dispatched. One of them actually took a GSW CPR case. So that wasn't a Ditzel call by any stretch. But we used 10 of them to do that, and that helped. We then got another 25 ambulances. And we got a little creative with those. So our big problem is hospitals being overcrowded, the emergency department sitting on our units. Nighttime, HFD has a fleet of 98 ambulances. Daytime, we go to 103 because we got 5 peak time ambulances usually. We, at 1 o'clock, not last night, two nights ago, at 1 o'clock in the morning, 50 of our 98 ambulances were in hospitals waiting to offload. That's half our fleet. So what we did was we took these state provided units, we put them at the hospitals, they came with an ambulance, so they got 1 stretcher. We gave them 5 additionals, then I have 6 stretchers. And we were offloading our patients onto their stretchers and getting back out on the street. At some of our biggest hospitals like Memorial Hermann, Paul, you're familiar with Memorial Hermann, we actually had so many there, we had 2 of their teams in there watching nearly 20 of our patients so that we could get our units back out on the street. And then the third thing that happened was we set up a field hospital. We got a forward medical shelter type deal at NRG, which is the big where the Texans play. There's a complex there. There's a large building called the NRG Arena. So we've got it there. They can hold 250 beds. And what we're doing is we're allowing hospitals to discharge people who are good for discharge. They just don't have a home with power. We're discharging them there, and they'll stay there until their home gets power. And actually, this morning we're actually starting to see the through flow in the emergency department finally start beginning. It's taken 2 days of these efforts to see the product at the end where the emergency departments are starting to decompress a little bit. A couple of other things. We have oxygen strike teams. So we have a lot of people in home O2. And so we've got a method where they can call a number and we'll send people to their homes to deliver oxygen. They'll come back 12 hours later and we'll swap out their oxygen bottles. We've done that in the past. That's been working well, except this time they got attacked. One of the ambulances got attacked by angry neighbors. Anger has been a big thing. You don't cool people in Houston in the summer, they get pissed. We've had a lot of violence on the street. So one of our ambulance O2 strike teams got attacked. We had a HPD officer who got shot in the leg. He was responding to a domestic, and the guy came out and shot the officer in the leg, and then he was immediately arrested. He wasn't killed. The officer was taken to a hospital. The mayor went to visit him. The officer is on a stretcher in the hallway. The ER is coming apart at the seams. The mayor asked me about it at our meeting, and I went off on the whole ED boarding and overcrowding thing, and the fire chief went off on how they're sitting on our ambulances, and that was before the storm. So now the mayor is super pissed about this, so I'm going to get his ear, and hopefully we'll be able to make a stink about that problem, maybe help your communities as well. We then last night had a situation where a Harris County Sheriff's deputy went, a guy's ordering, he's going to get a pizza. They didn't make his pizza right, so he pulls out his gun and he beats the crap out of the 18-year-old who's selling pizza. The sheriffs respond. The guy took off. They had a description of his car, so they find it. The officer gets there. He finds the car. He's ready. I got the car. He's calling for backup. Meanwhile, the guy comes out from behind a tree and shoots and kills the police officer, the sheriff's deputy, all over a pizza order. So people are, we're seeing violence in the hospitals. We've got patients in hospitals ready for discharge. They don't have a home to go to, but you know what? The entire family is staying there with Uncle Dave, who just had his gallbladder out because they don't want to be at home where it's hot. They can go visit Uncle Dave in the hospital. So we got like 8, 9 visitors per patient in the hospital who refuse to leave. The hospital's trying to get them to leave. They won't leave. We've had nurses get chairs thrown at them. We've had nurses get beat up. It's very ugly. It's really ugly.
And David, you're kind of just in the middle of it, so it could get worse, right?
So yeah, the hospital, so the things we still have got a third of the population, a third of the customers in the city of Houston still don't have power.
Yeah.
And CenterPoint said that all the big easy fixes are done. So it's going to be another week before. So we've still
Right,
got a
when you say
lot of
Center- explain who CenterPoint is.
CenterPoint's our energy provider.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you can get into politics, it's not a good idea for your public utility to be a publicly traded corporation. I'm just saying,
Okay.
not a good idea. Anyways, I've gone through a bunch. I've got other notes, but I thought that was the most important stuff.
Well, it just sounds like, yeah, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that now, is it, let's say, like if we were doing a trauma, for the trauma surgeons here, we're doing one of our trauma, QA processes. Was this a preventable illness or not? Are there things, is it just going to be, if it's a disaster, it's a disaster? Or are there things we could do to prepare for it better? Or is that going to take some time for you to figure it out?
So the root cause analysis for we're going to get Category 1 storms again, right?
Yes.
So it's all about the power, the electricity.
Yeah.
And sorry, important thing for you to know. 2 things. So at one point, so we've got a network of 44 hospitals that we transport to, that HFD transports to. The second night or the first night, whatever, the first night of the storm, 15 hospitals went on internal disaster because they had no internet. So
Right.
they couldn't use their Epic system. So they couldn't do records, they couldn't order things. So 15 of them went on internal disaster. We've got a thing here with our 2 level 1 trauma centers that are right next door to us. For years, we had the, if you're both closed, you're both open. So we never did it before, but that night when I had a third of our hospitals on internal disaster, I said, guess what? You're all closed, you're all open. And I told them, we are not going to respect your internal disaster anymore because we still got to bring patients out. They didn't like that. They were, I'm not getting Christmas cards this year from some people.
Yeah.
But the internet went down.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
gonna focus on. It's the internet issue is when you have a thing where power goes out, that is the thing that really explodes. We saw it here a month ago in Dallas. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we were able to get power back onto hospitals, but they still didn't have internet. And that was, I don't understand, I'm not an IT person, but it was a separate point of failure. And here's the other thing, it wasn't just a point of failure for like geographically, it was hospital system. So all of the Memorial Hermann hospitals went offline. All of the Houston Methodist system hospitals went offline. It was a hospital system-based internet failure. It wasn't like, you think about power going down because a tree comes down in that neighborhood. This was more systemic than that. And so that was an important thing. So that was another point of failure that was unique that we've never had that before, internet failure.
The compounds that what we saw here a month ago when we had was that some of the cell towers were out for various providers, particularly AT&T on the east side of Dallas. And so people couldn't even talk via cell phone, and they'd have to go to different parts of the city to be able to do that. That's very disconcerting. So, but you're fortunate not to have that one this time, at least this time. And I'll emphasize, I'll put the underline this time.
David, would it help if the hospitals were on Starlink?
Perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, Paul,
that's
actually a very good point. Like again, at the camp, the issue I had, we lost power for several days. We literally have a generator, a Starlink, and you're up and running. And apparently, they just came out with a Starlink Mini. It's like it's so cheap.
Go into that a little bit more, Peter, if you don't mind, for those who aren't familiar with it. Can you go down on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so if you use AT&T or Verizon or whatever you use for Xfinity for your internet, as soon as like a wire goes down and like their services are not up, then even if your power comes back on, then you may not have any internet. However, if you have Starlink, which is cheap, it's a couple $100 plus like $50 a month. All you have to do is have your generator, and then you hook up you plug in the Starlink to the generator, and you have full Wi-Fi for your entire home and more, depending on how much how fast the connection is. But it's really fast, like 100 megabytes per second download. And so I think that there's going to come a day, because it's satellite-based internet, that all of us are going to have a Starlink Mini sitting in our closet when the power goes out, and hospitals, etc., should have it on their roofs.
And John,
One can also
John-
put a Starlink on your emergency vehicles.
right. Hey, and John Jew, there's even, you could get it for your home, right?
Yeah, the Starlink Home, Starlink Mini just got released, and it's basically a really small Starlink, but it requires a home subscription to actually get it. So this is really a home issue. It really doesn't affect, municipalities or large institutions. But Peter is absolutely correct. We have a couple of Starlinks, especially on our remote coast right now, and we're equipping all of our hospitals, hopefully, with Starlink, probably in the same venue as replacing some of our satellite phones. Does that make sense as well?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's kind of what I was getting at, so people were aware of it. So that's interesting. So David, bottom line is that again, when it comes down to it's a disaster. So is there anything you could do about this next time to make it better? And so what is your immediate, I'm going to reiterate that. So what's your immediate thoughts that you're going to do for better? And what's the advice for us who don't necessarily have a category 1 hurricane coming our way, but some other kind of major thing like a tornado or an earthquake or whatever?
So, so the one thing is, and this is so hard to do. So we use these extra ambulances we got in a way we never used them before, right?
Yeah.
We use them in the hospitals and the emergency departments to offload our crews, and we add them to our fleet and so on and so forth. In retrospect, I would have pulled, not that as soon as that became available, we used it. But I think next time around, the state will be they'll be offering that a whole lot quicker. We had at our medical surge, the field hospital that's set up, their pharmacy is pretty weak. It's pretty minor. So I was there last night and I said, listen, we can get you one of those giant Walgreens 18-wheelers or CVS 18-wheeler pharmacies that's got everything, and they have computer access to all the other pharmacies, because they were getting patients. They didn't really know what medicines they were on because the paperwork was inadequate and the person doesn't remember what antihypertensive, blah, blah, blah. I said, I can get you one of those. And they declined. They said, no, we'll be okay. And the person saying, because the doctor's saying, yes, get me that. And then the business person said, no, that's okay. We'll be okay with what we got. And I'm sure there's some sort of, look at, whenever I can get an asset offered to me, I'm freaking taking it. All right. Because I don't know what's going to happen in 12 hours. And so that's one thing I would say. So I just told you how we got creative with how we use the ambulances. It's really working well. And when you get an asset offered to you, freaking take it.
Okay. Hey, let me interrupt you for saying, Crawford, before you go, anything we need to know about in Philadelphia, or anything you want to talk about next week?
It's tough to follow that. It is drizzling in Philadelphia a little bit, if anyone's concerned. Apart from that, we're onboarding 4 EMS fellows this week, and we're doing department-wide training for blood. So blood is coming to Philadelphia, if anyone can believe that.
Give us a report next week, if you don't mind. I'm sorry you have to go, but I just want to make sure I didn't lose you.
Okay, no, I appreciate it.
Good. Hey, are you going to go to Las Vegas by any chance, just out of curiosity, for the ASAP meeting? I was wondering if you're headed there.
No, no.
Okay, you did yours last year in Philadelphia.
Yes.
All right, good. I'll let you go. I want to make sure that. Hey, Emily Kidd, I don't know how much you can tell us from a perspective from the state level, so to speak, right? And maybe explain why I'm asking you that. I don't know how much you could tell, but what's your perspectives on this?
Yeah, and I'm sorry I'm not on the camera today, y'all. I mean, like David said, it seems like every time we have a disaster in Texas, our emergency medical task force program comes up with some new innovative way to assist. And I think these medics in the emergency department that were basically decompressing, taking a kind of monitoring these patients in the emergency department, made a huge difference in a lot of the hospitals. Unfortunately, my area, we do Pasadena, which is a suburb of Houston. And our big hospital in that area, just like Dave was talking about with refusing assets, their leadership refused to allow these medics in. So we continue to have some wall time issues, which is unfortunate. But these
let me
medics have
let me
been-
introduce you, interrupt you on that one. So they refused to let him in. Is it an issue where it was like nursing competition, or is it an EMTALA thing that they're not credentialed to work at the hospital? And is that something you can make a prospective plan for next time?
I don't know. I think what we're going to have to do for next time is get, this was all, at the last minute, I think, is get in front of, I'm going to have to get in front of the hospital leadership and explain the process. I don't know if it's a misunderstanding. I don't know if it's a pride thing. But I will tell you that after we had that discussion, the wall times got better magically.
All right, good.
So
And then tell us, do you mind telling everybody, like, for example, the spousal arrangement you have, and I was wondering if you had any perspectives there, or you can't speak for him or whatever, just what your relationship is there and what NIN does.
Well, actually, my husband is the chief of emergency management for Texas, so he's been a little busy. But actually, it was when he was in Houston. I don't know, David, 3 days ago, he and David actually met and came up with this new ability or this new way to use medics for the hospitals. Now, one of the things that, that we had to make sure of when we had these medics, because of course they're EMS personnel, paramedics and EMTs from all over the state that are coming to help. So they and their medical directors are not credentialed to I guess, provide care in these hospitals. And so one of the things we had to make sure of was that while they are monitoring these patients and kind of keeping an eye on them, that they had to understand that they were not continuing to provide EMS care, right, per their protocols in the hospital. And so
there are provisions for people that have emergency credentialing sometimes.
Yeah,
And
but our guys
thought about it.
Our guys don't have credentials to work in those hospitals.
Yeah.
I mean, that I had some conversations with people, and I said, that's ridiculous. It's stupid. Our guy, I mean, we're solving our problem that you created.
Yep.
You don't get to say no. You can solve our problem, or you can let us solve it our way, but you don't get to say no. Because Emily had that same situation with some, I was a little bit nicer, but there's essentially what I was saying.
Yeah.
And,
Emily, back to you. I apologize, but go ahead, if I interrupt you.
So no, I mean, so basically what we said when the medics go in is, number one, they need to make sure that the 911 service has given a full report to someone in the hospital, right? Because what we didn't want to have was second and third hand information getting passed from one EMS person to another, and then maybe to another, and then finally to the hospital personnel. So that was one thing. And David, you can speak to it. I think there were some hiccups with that at first, but I've not heard any problems with that. The other thing is if the medics have to continue to provide care while they're in the hospital, that they need to get those orders, and that care needs to be coming from the ER physician, right? So they should not be continuing to provide protocol-driven medical care 2, 3, 4 hours into the patient being at the hospital. And my understanding is that's been going fairly well. I don't know if you've had a different.
So we said that anybody who's on a cardiac monitor is not eligible for this transfer, right, to the EMTF units. You have to stay with that patient. If they're on a monitor, if they have an IV, if you've given any cardiac meds, they're not eligible. You have to stick with that patient till the hospital takes care of them. So this is really people who just needed to be. They couldn't go in a chair in the waiting room, and there wasn't a bed in the ER for them, but they needed no care unless it was going to surprise everybody.
So I want to interrupt you guys for a second. We can even come back to this. It's one of the things it sounds like is the paramedics being assigned into the hospitals is an important thing. It might mean that you have to have prior understandings of this, agreements, whatever, may be a good thing going forward. One take home we have here. The other issue is about the power issue, the Starlink, all those things to be really good things that we all need to know about, and so on. And then, so let's first, Jeff Goodlow, I want to talk to you real quickly, if you don't mind, because you have to go pretty soon. I also want to get a hold of Fiona, see if she has anything to report. Jeff's our Eagle from Tulsa and Oklahoma City. He's so good they gave him 2 cities, right? So, Jeff, anything to report? Anything we need to know about if you're still here with us?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Whole Blood is up and running in Tulsa, and in true Houston is not alone in anger management issues. We've already given 2 units of Whole Blood in the first 5 days of availability here in Tulsa. So I anticipate that the Tulsa numbers will actually eclipse Oklahoma City within the first year here. But good to say that we have that availability in both of Oklahoma's major metropolitan areas now. From the ASEP front, things are going
Yeah,
well. We're excited.
yeah, and Jeff is a member of you're part of the board of directors, right, at ASEP, American College of Emergency Physicians, right?
That's what they tell me. I'm the chair this year, Paul. Yeah. So
the chair. Okay, got it. Okay.
Yeah. And so things are going well. We're excited about ASEP 24 in Las Vegas, and really encourage folks to come and spend the whole conference with us, but definitely I think germane to everybody here, spend the day with the Eagles track on Monday, September 30th. Paul has already put together an outstanding program, and many of you are a part of that. We're looking forward to welcoming you as part of the ASEP 24 conference, and hopefully make that an annual thing down the road to really highlight all the great work in our major urban systems around the country. So I think it's going to be a fantastic part of the conference. Las Vegas is always our most popular destination. By the time September rolls around, the weather is a little bit below 120 during the day. So take some time and come out and join us. I think it's going to be fantastic. And kudos to Paul for working with our meeting and conference staff. And it really is going to be a fantastic day.
They've actually they've been
just
really
a quick update. We had a fantastic meeting with our colleagues at, and I know Dr. Jenkins will be interested in this, fantastic meeting with our colleagues on the executive committee of American College of Surgeons Committee on Trauma in Chicago. I guess it was just last Friday, or maybe the Friday before, but it's the reason I couldn't attend that week. We were up meeting with them. Things are really, really positive, and the synergies between our medical specialty society organizations, a lot of shared advocacy for building a true national trauma and emergency medicine preparedness system, really leveraging a lot of the success of the RACs in Texas and some of the work that came out of the pandemic in the Seattle area. So things that you guys are already very familiar with and frankly very involved with. And so trying to replicate more of that across the country. It's a years-long project, but really happy to be working very closely with our trauma surgery colleagues in that regard.
Hey, and one thing that's really important to me, did you get the circulatory arrest versus cardiac arrest issue out there?
Yeah, and we're presently working in a consortium with ASEP, ACSCOT, NAEMSP, American Heart, NAEMT on a consensus paper on post-traumatic circulatory arrest. So that's going to be a few months in the making, but always happy to be working on these consensus type papers. We're hoping to, be able to make life a little easier for not just our EMS physician colleagues that have less resources than we do, but certainly frontline EMS clinicians that heretofore may be getting some mixed messaging in some policy statements, from different organizations that these guys are just trying to do the right thing. But, when one policy statement says, give X and another policy statement says give Y, and, they're not sure which to give. So, trying to make these more consensus statements, ultimately driving more evidence-based practice.
But I appreciate the point was I was appreciating because I just brought this up on another call where they continue to use the term cardiac arrest, which is something that does happen out there. I just want to make sure people understand there's a period before you get to cardiac arrest where they may actually be reversible. So thank you for focusing on that one. All right, so then let's do this. Anything else? Otherwise, Jeff, if you got to go, I'll let you go. And hey, actually, if you get a chance, call me later this afternoon. I have whole nother subject I have to talk to you about. Okay, so with that. All right, and then I want to get over to Fiona real quick before we get back to the other discussions, because Fiona's got to go. What's anything new from the UK?
So, yeah, good afternoon, everybody. We have a new government. After
Oh, yeah.
14 years, we have the Labour Party in power. The turnout for the general election was 34%, so you can tell that not everybody's terribly interested in who runs the country. But it means that we have a new Secretary of State for Health, a guy called Wes Streeting, who has announced that the NHS is broken. That's not a great thing to say to people who've been working their socks off for the last 10 years or so, faced a pandemic, lost a lot of their colleagues. So we now have an NHS review, which is being undertaken. Fortunately, it's being undertaken by a very sensible guy, Lord Aradarzi, who's a surgeon who is also a fairly technologically capable individual. So we'll wait and see what he comes up with. So that's just starting now, and I'll keep you updated on that. Other than that, it may have escaped your notice, but England has got into the final of the Euro 2024, which is a big deal over here. You call it soccer, we call it football. It's immensely popular in this country, but nothing like as good a game as rugby. And finally, we have Wimbledon going on at the moment, but all the Brits have been knocked out so far, and Andy Murray has played his final game at Wimbledon. So that's about it from this side of the pond.
Well, that was a great setup for Mick Malloy to discuss why we use the term football, why it's befuddling to everybody over there, and he can mention a little bit. The dean of our College of Sports Medicine in Ireland could talk a little bit more also about rugby. So thank you for the great segue there, Fiona. Go ahead, Mick.
Well, actually, there's another point of reference in that talk. Sir Aradarzi graduated from the Royal College of Surgeons in Ireland, in Dublin. So he did his medical school training here.
Oh, good.
Obviously weren't enough medical schools in the UK at the time. But yeah, football, because they use their feet. Unlike the football where you guys just throw the ball and nobody really gets to use their feet.
Sometimes we kick it over some little thing. But go ahead.
You kick it, but you can't get the ball back. That's the bit I don't understand. You kick it away, but you can't retrieve it. That's one of the skill points in rugby. You kick the ball away, you're trying to get it back again. You're trying to generate field position and get to a place. The elections in the UK, the elections are going to be quite interesting because there's a new health secretary and there's a lot of.
Hey, Jim Augustine, I don't know if somebody's making some background noise there real quick. So go ahead. Go ahead, Mick.
There's a new Northern Ireland secretary, and the one good thing about this particular government is the people they've appointed in as the various secretaries have been operating in the shadow roles. So all have experience in that area, which is going to hopefully mean they're able to hit the ground running. Normally when you get a new government, it's new people who don't really know the profile or the department.
Tell us a little bit about how
from a medical perspective
would affect. Tell us a little bit how Northern Ireland would affect you a little bit in the Republic of Ireland.
So we have quite a number of cross-border initiatives between both sides. So you can call 112 999 and you may get an ambulance from the other jurisdiction who will pick you up and bring you to a hospital in the other country. So that had gotten a little more difficult because of the cross-border stuff, because not everybody who lives in those areas would be an Irish citizen. And Irish citizens in the UK and UK citizens in Ireland have a common agreement about funding for the health services. But if you have a Lithuanian or Latvian or a Bosnian or Ukrainian in Ireland, that doesn't translate, and they would end up having a fee to pay because their EU health card doesn't work in the UK. So there are some practical difficulties, but not insurmountable.
So
I had a question about the.
Yeah, you had your hand raised. So what did you want to talk about?
Yeah. So it was just a question for David, and it was about, and I think it came up last week as well, about credentialing for people. That, like, never wanting to waste a good disaster. Is this the time to actually push? Because I was just thinking when he talked about so many hospitals being offline, but if the others were on, it seems to me that from the outside that your system doesn't facilitate the docs could move from one hospital to another and work in the other, and particularly if they're coming across a state border, that they couldn't do it. Is this not one of those opportunities where we should be pushing to get that national credentialing as opposed to state credentialing?
Well, I don't know about national, but we certainly within the state and between hospital systems, we've done that in the past here in Houston, where any the hospitals just, I don't know how they did it, but they just, if you're credentialed at that hospital, you're not credentialed here, piece of paper. So they did, and same thing with nurses. So we've done that before within the state. When we've gone across state, tried to go across it, like back when we had Hurricane Katrina and then Rita that hit here, and there's a lot going back and forth between here and Louisiana. Yeah, that became a real problem. So this might be a time.
Good. All right. Right. So anybody else want to contribute? Well, Jim, you have your hand up. Go ahead, Jim. Jim Augustine.
Yeah, I did. I was going to go to Fiona and say, would you please talk about your pregnant EMS member question that we just sent out yesterday?
Yeah, thanks, Jim, and thanks very much to you and Jim for translating our efforts into something that might go to the Eagles. We're really interested in knowing how you treat your pregnant members of staff, whether they are able to stay working operationally, and if so, for how long, and what arrangements you make for them to return to work in terms of the opportunities to breastfeed and have reasonable adjustments made to their work. So there's a brief questionnaire going out. I'd be really interested in the results. The context for this is that in the United Kingdom, as soon as you declare yourself to be pregnant, so basically as soon as the little line goes blue on the pregnancy test, you're off operational duties, which leads to a significant number of staff concealing their pregnancy until it can no longer be concealed. In the air ambulance world, the civil aviation.
Let me interrupt you, Fiona. Is that because they're concealing it because they want to still be paid, or where they have not been paid, or is that what it is?
They want to go on working. They don't want to sit at home because generally there are no jobs that they can usefully do.
Yes.
If they are not working operationally, and they don't want to sit around counting paper clips.
All right, sorry to interrupt you. Thank you. That's a great clarification. Appreciate that.
Okay. And from the air ambulance point of view, the Civil Aviation Authority dictates that you cannot fly after 26 weeks, which sounds pretty reasonable. But I'd just be interested to know what arrangements you make for your pregnant staff, given that we're seeing over 50% of our frontline operational staff being young and female. Yeah. So it's not like the old days when most of your staff were ex-military men.
Yeah. Well, one thing we could do is let's go ahead and put out, if you want, it's going to be, there's so many questions though to address. I'm thinking that maybe next week we'll actually have you lead a session, and we'll have people, now that they know what the question is, prepare something, and each person could pipe in next week and say, here's what we do and here's how we handle it. And that would be actually a nice discussion to have, and that may actually help us formulate the best survey for you. Okay, does that sound reasonable?
That would be great. Probably not next week because I'm teaching major instance stuff on Friday. So the following week would be great.
So, but 2 weeks won't be too much of a delay though for you, right?
No, we're having a workshop in early September, so 2 or 3 weeks will be fine.
Okay. Well, I think that'd be great because I like to hear what people have to say. There's probably 100 people that would put stuff in the chat, but I think it'd be better to address each one of those kind of questions you have, and have everybody pipe in about what they're saying, and see if there's anything different, or is there a lot of consistency here? I'm going to bet that there is actually a lot of differences between different systems and different areas. So it'll be very interesting to see that, I think. Okay. So good. Thank you for bringing that up. All righty. So we can go ahead and get back to some of these other areas then that we were talking about. If people want to continue the discussion. Emily, anything else to add before we head off, or David? And I want to get to everybody else, is what I'm saying. There's so many other people I want to talk to here today.
No, just I was just going to add one thing. I did to try and help alleviate some of the crowding was kind of emergency approved some of our freestanding emergency departments around our main hospital in our area. That was really good. That helped to offload a lot of the lower acuity stuff.
Okay, cool. All right, good. All right, David, anything else before we close? We can always come back next week because I want to follow up if you can make it next week. Okay, so.
Yeah, no, Emily, we thought about doing that too, but our computer system required programming that we couldn't do quick. So there's another opportunity for improvement to be able to change the computers more quickly than we can.
All right, good discussion so far then. Thanks a lot. Let's pop over real quickly to Germany. Mark, anything you could tell us about what's happening there? I don't know how good.
No, on vacation in Germany. It's a family vacation. We're about to depart Hamburg on a cruise to Norway, which should be fun. Except of the 6 of us, 3 are sick. And so my wife and I have been run pretty ragged, kind of trying to take care of people.
What kind of illness is it? Can you tell us?
GI.
Yeah, it's interesting. So so that makes sense. Probably maybe you're thinking neuro, or what are you thinking? Did it come on with?
No, it actually the onset was actually immediately after arrival, and we think that the first person got it eating carpaccio, and then spread it to the other 2. So
got it.
It's been a joy.
Oh God!
But
the reason why I'm interested, because I've had calls from people like, my city manager or whomever every once in a while, and getting a call say we're in Budapest and all of a sudden everybody's got diarrhea and and so on, but only the males, not the females, or whatever, just all those kinds of fun things that happen when you get over you travel wherever you're traveling to. So all right, well, I hope they all get well soon then, especially on the way to Norway. Okay, well,
yep. But other than that,
yeah, anything we should know out of San Jose or what's going on there?
Yeah, well, the big thing, and this is kind of happening statewide, but our hospital is an example in that a lot of hospitals are being required to do some seismic refits. So we've just lost 40 of our inpatient beds at Stanford, which is causing tremendous boarding issues in the emergency department. We actually built a temporary treatment area in the waiting room, and it's now just part of our schedule. We staff it as the Indigo Zone. And it operates by putting a physician in one of the triage rooms, and they just rotate patients in and out, and then run their IVs out in the waiting room, and they wait for their CT scans out there. And it's been functioning pretty well. We still are not holding ambulances
so again,
at all.
What's the precipitator here? Because you guys are great at not having wall time there because you're a hospital.
We still don't, but they've part of the hospital was built in 1952, and it is not up to seismic code, and so that hospital is being renovated sort of wing by wing, and one of the wings was just closed, losing 40 beds, 40 inpatient beds, which of course pushes everything downstream, and so that's kind of the precipitant for these emergency measures.
Okay, got it. Eileen, what was the question you had for Mark?
Well, I think that, by not moving them into, actually.
We can't hear you very well. Need to come closer to the microphone.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So what is the effect on the cost of care? So in other words, what's the effect on the cost of care of having this Indigo room to each patient as compared to what normally would happen?
They're just treated as normal emergency department patients. That's just one of the strategies we employ. We have opened up some hallway beds in some of the treatment areas.
Right. But when you admit a patient, there's a different cost schedule, right?
Yeah.
So if you were to admit the patient, wouldn't that overall cost be less?
So these are still emergency department patients until they're admitted. Once they're admitted, they may be boarding in part of the ED, or they may be boarding in the PACU. The hospital has a variety of inpatient boarding areas, but the Indigo Zone is in the waiting room, and it's strictly an emergency department treatment area. Once those patients are admitted, they tend to be moved into different areas of the hospital for their admitted stay.
let me jump over to Clayton, and then I want to bring up a discussion about the latest on blood. So especially for those of you on the call that are large numbers, I just want to let you know that I want to go to that next. And then Eileen, if you have anything to report on infectious diseases, I'll go to you after that. But in the meantime, Clayton, you had a comment here?
Yeah, I was going to say there was a bill that passed, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 years ago that said that hospitals will have to do a seismic upgrade by whatever, 2025, 2026. And what's happened is many of the hospitals have just not done it because it's really expensive. It's very hard to upgrade these old aging facilities to meet modern standards. There is a bill now, they're also required to post what their compliance is with seismic standards. So you may walk into a building and see a sign that says, just so you know, if there's an earthquake, you should probably run really fast out of this building. But there's a bill in the legislature where they're trying to kick the can down the road like another 5 or 10 years to give them more time. And I'm sympathetic to the hospitals because I know that they have such a tight margin as it is, and these construction costs are skyrocketing. But unfortunately, they've kind of failed to act for a long time to get themselves into standards. So we're going to find ourselves in quite a pickle where hospitals may close because they don't have the money to come up to standard, and the state may require it, and we may just cut off our nose to spite our face.
And you have a lot of those in LA County in particular, right?
We have 69 hospitals in and around LA County that we transport to.
Right. And Drew still pretty old? Did they build anything new there, or what's it look like?
So what used to be King Drew is now the MLK Community Hospital. The old trauma tower, because they actually used to have a little separate trauma center that was kind of a separate wing of the hospital.
Yeah,
that was modern enough that they brought it up to current seismic standards. The old hospital, they actually shuttered and reopened as a behavioral health center with various levels of beds, and that's a different seismic standard.
Okay, that's good, because that was that was good. If something did hit there, that would be a big issue. So, but there's only 68 to go after that.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, one of the interesting thing too is if you look up hospital beds per capita, California ranks among the lowest number of hospital beds per capita in the United States.
Interesting.
And so we're probably dead last now with the hospital beds closing due to these seismic refits.
There's a lot of brick and mortar, but not a lot of beds, and staffing basically is a good way of putting it, right? So, okay. All right. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. And thanks. Anything else? Well, I got you there, Clayton. Anything else to report out LA County for us?
No, fire season's blowing up. We've been getting a lot of grass fires and stuff popping up, and it's been awfully hot in the West, but I wouldn't trade spots with Houston either.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Hey, let me pop over to Randy. First of all, Randy, if you wouldn't mind, I'm not sure if Fiona is still with us or not. I got to take a look. But one thing maybe we could send to her is if you could find out if there is a current policy out of the military that we could send along, because I think that's a great model to start with, and maybe that's good for us to learn, and maybe you could send that over to Jim Augustine. We could do it. Do you think there is a single written policy somewhere, or do you think we're gonna have to go look for it somewhere?
I actually just sent her a link to one of the open source pages that breaks down your duty limitations, your postpartum profile, everything. I can send that to the group. Having some experience with being an active duty soldier on pregnant with twins doing that.
That's right. Hey, so Randy, so make sure Dr. Augustine gets it if you don't mind. Okay. And I'll let you his email under Lee County. That would be fantastic, because he's our librarian, so to speak, and always helps it. Well, so I got you here. What's the latest in blood? And it'd be great. And we have a lot of other, let's say, blood-worthy people on our call with us today, which has been fantastic, including Dr. Torres from up in Boston, and so on, and Don, et cetera, and Eric. And so, can you give us a quick update on where we are?
I can give you the quick numbers, and then I think Eric is going to talk a little bit about the new CMS piece that came out in the last couple of days.
Right.
So they're tracking roughly 165 agencies right now.
And these are ground agencies when you say agencies, correct?
These are ground EMS agencies providing pre-hospital blood of some flavor, whether it's whole blood, packed red blood cells, or plasma.
Yeah.
and then I will turn it over. I think Eric, where were you? I saw there you are. It's a bingo. He's gonna
Bingo.
about the CMS progress that's been made.
Yeah, it's really kind of cool because one of the biggest issues has always been, can we get funded for this? So can we get funded for this, Eric? What's the story?
So it's looking good. So CMS has put out that we sent out, and I'll send it out to the group. They have a proposed rule change for 2025 that's out for comments right now that adds blood to the ALS2 reimbursement schedule. So this brings a couple things to the table. One, it
Let me
recognizes.
interrupt you just for a second because the specifics is around the concept of giving whole blood, correct? Does it specify whether it's low titer? Does it specify other blood products? I know that's what you were just about to answer, so I wanted to set up the question, that's all.
Sure. So right now it's low titer whole blood, but they did place in the email to us about comments that they'd like to know, should they include component therapy? And I know Dr. Jenkins is on the call, and the answer to that is obviously yes. And I think that it was focused here because that's what they were hearing from us. That's what they saw in the papers, but they're very open. And I'll have to tell you, honestly, dealing with the CMS folks in very informal conversations as this was all working its way through the system, they've been actually pretty great to deal with on this topic. And so
Nice.
I believe that they'll be very receptive to that. And so, yeah, correct. Dr. Pappy, right now it is just low titer O whole blood, O positive whole blood.
Yes.
We're working through a series of comments. And again, my suggestion is always, as groups, ASAP, I know that Dr. Kirby from American College of Surgeons, COT, is working on their response. I think as groups, we're much better off providing comments than individual comments. And so I know our pre-hospital transfusion group is working on some comments. And obviously component therapy is high up there in the list. Because that was the first series of questions we got is, well, this doesn't really help us.
Yeah.
This helps us. I don't think people, I think folks on this call understand this, but I think some folks across the country don't understand how huge this is and how fast this moved without having to go through CMMI or Congress.
Amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, it's really cool.
It is absolutely astronomical.
The other thing, the reason why I wanted to emphasize this issue about the other components is that one of the things we're all coming to a realization about is that, and for those who were there, I don't want to be too redundant for those who were at the National Whole Blood Summit, and Don Jenkins asked me to give a talk about some perspectives and in terms of access to care and whatever. And that one is the issue about having blood out there, particularly in rural areas where it's going to be used less often. And so is it worth the storage and all that? But I'm saying even within our own system, and one of the things we've heard from our blood banking people is that we can't have enough blood to put on every ambulance. So there will have to be, right now what we do is an intercept oftentimes, with an EMS supervisor coming along and getting it to you. But can you have it on every ambulance? And it became really apparent to me during that meeting that that's not going to be as feasible, and that we need to be looking at maybe if we do, and I think we should try to have it on every ambulance, is the issues like TXA and so on, and then also possibly some component theory plasma or whatever might be a good thing, and then particularly the various forms of the plasma, which maybe we could put on the ambulance. There are some formulations that now are good for 2 years at room temperature. So that may be a way to get that. That's why it's so important for me to basically ask you that question about, is it just low titer? It's optimal to get the low titer, but maybe in terms of we need to have other access as well and get paid for it, hopefully as well. That kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So it currently is, like you said, and like you mentioned, it's just whole blood, but again, they're requesting comments. And so the comments, of course, is because of flexibility. And I mean, we just, again, I'm about 20 miles west of where Dr. Purse is sitting right now. And so we knew that when we contacted the blood bank on Sunday for extra units, we weren't going to get whole blood. We got component therapy as a backup for the next couple of days, as we knew it was going to be dicey to try and get blood. So for flexibility reasons, and for the fact that we know with the way the rotations and things work, and, I think Dr. Duchetti's on this call, they're using pack red cells now. So it's important that the component therapy is included in there. So we'll actually bring that in there The other kind of key part here is also this, while this is not going to necessarily change the reimbursement from CMS in 25, it will recognize the treatment, and then we can work on that in the 25 rule change. This will also drive the commercial side. So unlike any other form of medicine, commercial insurance follows CMS when it comes to payment for EMS. So,
right.
Very, very good progress from, and again, just an astronomical speed.
Yeah.
And very, very, you know, I don't want to tax myself. I'm knocking on my whatever simulated wood my desk is made out of.
Yeah.
As we move through this process. And so that's what, and I see Dr. Augustine has his hand up. So that's either for me or for you.
I'll go over that. And then I'm going to, two things. I was going to go pitch right back to Randy for a second. I have a specific question for her. And then to Don after that. Okay. For a good question. And if Dr. Torres want to pop in, you're fine too as well. Jim, go ahead. Jim
yeah, sorry. I just was going to say ALS2 is not adequate reimbursement for a critical patient with the cost of product. Our base rate for an ALS1 versus ALS2 is about $120 additional payment. And I in my stance with the IFC and others, I'm going to recommend we have a separate procedure code for blood administration, and it'd be significantly higher than that. And ALS2 does reflect a higher level of care for a really sick or injured patient. I don't think their payment schedules are going to be adequate. Thanks, Paul.
Good. That's a great comment. Thank you then. All right. So let's, one thing, what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, Randy, is that I hope I made the point that even within our urban systems where we have whole blood already and we're running it, we just can't put it on every ambulance. And then down the line, I inferred that there maybe what thing we can get on every ambulance besides, say, TXA is some forms of plasma. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of those are? I alluded already that there's various types of plasma that are actually could be at room temperature and have a 2-year storage opportunity for us. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And I apologize. My internet crashed in my house, so I'm back on my phone. And I just want to comment, 4 months ago, CMS did not even know what type-positive whole blood was. We were explaining very carefully what this was. So I'm excited we've even gotten this far on the topic, that they've gone and a date. It's been great. We got a long ways to go, but we're heading in the right direction. And yes, other capabilities. So looking at either freeze-dried or spray-dried plasma. So the military has been using freeze-dried plasma for 20 years under a waiver. It's commonly used in Europe already. We're having some problems on the freeze-dried, getting that implemented in the US. Spray-dried plasma is the other option. One freezes it, one heats it, but the end point is that you have a shelf-stable product that doesn't have cold chain management, and it has a projected life cycle of about 2 years. It's good for about 4 hours once it's reconstituted, but that is something that we can get into every single ambulance in the US.
That would be a good thing. Tell us a little bit about what it means when you say spray dried. I mean, I think we kind of have an idea about freeze dried, and that again adds its own level of complexity as well. So, but tell us about spray dried. What does that mean?
Yeah, so my level of knowledge is they put it into this little magical machine, they heat it up, extract out, and out on the other end comes a bag. It's been spray dried. I can give you the website if anybody's interested, that they can look up the technology.
So Randy, Randy, let me speak to it for a minute.
There you go. That's the smart guy on that.
That's where I was going to go to next. That's just
so the freeze-dried plasma would be centrally produced. The thing with the spray-dried plasma is that the company making the device would sell it to your blood distributor, and your blood distributor would make their own dried plasma using this technology. So from central sourcing to local sourcing, then your region sets the tenor, the tone, the price point, the shelf life of that product. They set the par for what they need on the shelf, et cetera. I think they're complementary kind of programs, and we're just waiting for all the work to be done, the FDA to approve those that product and that technology.
Yeah. And then do you have any ballpark, or do we know yet about what it might cost? Because that's another issue right there, right? So
I don't know the marketing analysis, and I don't think that the companies have made that terribly public. I'm
Yes.
sure people on their boards and have some idea about that. But the concept that every critical access hospital and EMS rig could have a supply of plasma on hand is amazing. And I think that, going to Jim Augustine's point, I agree with him completely about the ALS2 billing. But the point is that now the foot is in the door. They've written the word blood down. And it's a matter of, I think, as Eric was saying, we reapproach on the next iteration of these CMS rules, and take a next step. I think Randy was referring to that as well, as to how do you then create this special category or this special billing code so I wouldn't poo-poo the thought of including this as an ALS2 allowable billing upcharge. I think it's a great step in the right direction, and as Eric said, with little prompting. I do think that in the comments we need to push for all blood products, not just low titer O positive whole blood, which is what it says. I have a question for those in the know. I don't know if John is on, or if Randy has looked at this, or Eric, or anyone else, but there is a sort of a rabbit's warren you go down when you click on the link in that email announcement that takes you to like a dozen different possible next steps to look at what's in this 2,200 page document, and provide that specific feedback. I exhausted my attention span trying to find the place to provide the comment on that yesterday. So if there's a way to send out a shortcut link to exactly where to make the comments, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yeah, we discussed that. We're working on that. My joke during the meeting or on the call was that was part of the U.S. Government Paperwork Reduction Act. It was only 200 pages.
Great. All right, I only got about 15 minutes to get around to everybody else on the horn here. But that was great comments. And hey, Dr. Torres, any comments you want to throw in here from your end, or welcome to the call, by the way.
Yeah, I just no additional comments, but what to say, thanks for having me. For you guys that don't know me, I got to meet a few of you at the National Whole Blood Summit a couple of weeks ago in San Antonio, so that was great. But yeah, I'm up here in Boston. I'm at Boston Medical Center. I'm a trauma surgeon who's partnered with Cancer and Fire, and we got our program, our pre-hospital whole blood transfusion program, approved back in December. We had our paramedics interviewed, trained, and ready to go in March, and then had our first patient transfused a couple of weeks ago, and our second patient transfused a week ago, and both are doing well. They needed it. They were very critically injured patients, and so far so good. And it was just a lot of effort. This has been a 2 to 3 year project that we've been working on here, going through all the resistance and obstruction, but here we are, and it's great to hear from you guys, learn from you guys, and we have a lot more work to do up here.
Let me take what you said and talk about the whole blood summit. I thought it was fantastic. So Don Jenkins, I cannot thank you enough for organizing that. And also, you just on a personal note, just directing me towards the talk that I gave, because it was actually helpful and I learned a lot from the whole organization, particularly this new perspective we brought up today. So and making sure that it's not just whole blood. So thank you so much for what you do on a day-to-day basis. So let me quickly go around the room, if you don't mind, and with everybody else, and see anything important to tell us about, Eileen, on the infectious disease side, or can we wait till next week?
Well, it'll take 1 minute just to say that there's a really increased risk of pertussis going on in Europe and in the United States right now. It's the highest ever seen in the UK in decades. It's 3 times as much as last year here in the United States. It's higher than normal in Ireland. I don't know if Mick's been paying attention to that, but this is a really high risk problem for pregnant women. So you may be seeing patients that are pregnant women because it's high risk for them and for their infants. There's waning immunity. That's part of the problem. People need to be revaccinated. Pregnant women need to be vaccinated each time they're pregnant.
Interesting. Hey, so you want to give us a little bit more of a talk about like 4 or 5 minute thing next week, maybe?
Sure.
Okay, fantastic. Sounds really good. Bill, were you going to pipe in about that? Bill Baumer from California Health.
Oh, no, not on pertussis. I just had a quick comment on the closure of Stanford for that. 23 of our hospitals in California do not meet the 2008 code for seismic safety, being aware. So that deadline was moved to 2025. So Stanford has until the end of this year to comply. Yeah. And it's very expensive. And 62% of our 414 hospitals in California do not meet the 2030 code, meaning that code is not only do you have to have the building stand, you have to be operational at that time. And that means there's over 200 hospitals here in California that will not meet the code for 2030.
All right, well, thank you then. That's going to be interesting. So let's quickly see if we can get around the room or not, because we only have about 13 minutes, but I think we can pull it off as usual. Hey, first of all, AJ, did you try to send me something yesterday? Because I wasn't going to open it up because it looked kind of odd. Was that from you? Did you send me maybe a cell phone? AJ, did you send me a link yesterday? AG Heitman?
I did, Paul. It's something interesting. You should open it.
Okay, I will open it then. Okay, got it. All right, good. Thank you. Thank you. Sometimes I don't trust things that I get that, you know where they're coming from. So thank you. All righty. So then I'll just go down the list here real quick from people we hadn't talked to yet. Glenn Asada in New York, good place to start. Anything new to report out of New York City?
Hi, everybody. Just our heat issues for us. Again, we're having another heat wave. Calls are going over 5,000 a day, and we're having problems with, we call it turnaround time, wall times. We had one crew stuck for 2.5 hours yesterday that I'm looking into now because the claim from our crew is the nurse refused to sign the triage sheet. So little things like that we're trying to figure out.
Okay, got it. But that's just one extraordinary case, but you're seeing it generally, you're seeing more and more of it is because they're overwhelmed. Is that what's going on?
Yep, absolutely. They're busy. Absolutely.
Okay, got it. All right. Other than that, pretty much just status quo, just the usual, mass casualty a day or whatever it may be, whatever it is. Okay. Thank you then. Great to see you, Glenn. And thanks for being on every week. It's just because you have such invaluable, information for us all the time. I really appreciate it. It's often understated.
Thank
Joe,
you.
Anything out of Memphis? In the state of Tennessee as well, you have. Okay.
No protocol revisions for me. And other than that, we're maintaining our rating as, one of the #1 cities for penetrating trauma in the country, in the world, actually, according to Facebook yesterday. So
oh, God.
We're in the top 10. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's all I can say is like, what a notable reputation.
Exactly. So proud. And we have good barbecue too.
That's true. Okay. Hey, John Jew, anything out of Portland?
Just for Glenn, we're recovering from our heat wave, which is we've had over 105, 102, 105 degrees for 7 days, which is amazing.
And let
we
me
had to-
emphasize, if you don't mind, John, let me interrupt you, is that, you know, living in the Pacific Northwest, it's rare for it to ever go over 90 in the past. Okay, number one. And number two, as a
Yeah.
result, hardly anybody has air conditioning. And what, half the population?
Only half our population is air conditioned. I feel sorry for colleagues in Houston, and good luck to Glenn right now. We actually had 6 fatalities. About 2 years ago, we had 50 to 60 fatalities from the heat wave as well. So we've improved, but we're not quite there yet. And honestly, I probably need to talk to our colleagues in Houston regarding lessons learned, because this is not the first time they got hit by the hurricane. That's sort of interesting how this one was different. That's about it.
Okay, good. And then Kelly, Morgan, anything to report from Las Vegas?
I can just echo that the temperatures are miserable, having hit 120 here in Vegas. It has been atrocious, and it's been over 115 for I think 9 or 10 days straight in a row. And so it's just, it's wreaking havoc on everybody. And I agree kind of with the sentiments from Houston. Everybody's tempers are extra short right about now. Otherwise, we're just preparing for EMS Expo that's coming up here, and then followed a couple weeks later by ASAP. So I'm assuming I will see most of you guys out there.
Hey, so I'm thinking about maybe, I don't know whether we're doing it Monday night or maybe Sunday night doing a Capos run, bringing everybody there, like, you know, the group.
Okay.
Does that
On
sound?
the 29th.
Yeah, either on the 29th or on the evening of the 30th when we're finished, as sort of like you know, whatever. But let me know which date is good, and if and I'll talk to the people at Capos. Do you think that'd be a good place to have a run there?
Yeah,
those?
I think that would be a good call.
Because most people don't have any clue about it, right?
Yeah.
So that's really good. Okay, thank you. Just
Yep.
you and I will plot together about that one. I'll
Yeah.
call manager. Okay, so
That's
good.
fine. I had one quick offline kind of like thing that wasn't an update. If anybody runs their communication center, I could use like a little bit of help from a overseeing the comm center. So if anybody has kind of some good policies and procedures around that, I'm getting some resistance here and could use a hand. So
Yeah, I think and be more specific about what policies you're talking about. What kind
I'm talking about like getting the medical director more involved in comms. I'm getting resistance from our assistant chief, and there's like problems with integration. And so I'm trying to provide a lot more direction than I think that they necessarily, well, let me rephrase, not provide more direction that they want. I think they don't know what to ask for or need, and this is a weaker area for me. So I'm just looking for any advice on that. I've reached out to some of the national folks too, but like
look at the email list, and a couple of people I would reach out to are David Purse off the top of my head.
Okay.
And because he just is well integrated and he's got a great QA program for it. I mean, a lot of people on the call right now will do David Biramonte's same thing. But what I would do is we could put out a search for you as well. You know, if they can contact you, we'll do that. Okay.
I could just use like a 30-minute call would be really helpful from anybody. So yeah.
Yeah. Anyone on the call right now feel like you could help her out in those areas?
Yeah, Kelly, this is Mark Cotreau in San Jose. They actually, on their request, kind of pulled in a lot more medical director support. And so I could also have our communications leadership talk to your communications leadership about why they did that and how they feel it benefits them.
That would be, that'd be great.
Drop me
Mark.
an email and we can schedule a call once I'm back from vacation.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Thanks.
Okay, thanks a lot. Libby, what's happening in Hawaii? Libby Char.
Oh, we're just doing our usual maintenance stuff, looking at protocols and whatnot, and feel bad for y'all with the super bad heat.
Tell them about
kind of usual here.
Is the COVID rate going down now, or is it still level?
It's really high, and it seems like it's plateauing, but I'm not sure yet. We'll wait and make sure that there's a downturn.
Fascinating. Yeah, I think that's going to hang in there for a while. The good news is that the real sickos, it's not that high a level, I suspect, but you might have more prolonged, what's long COVID coming out of it.
there's a lot more ER visits, but not a lot more hospitalization. So
Yeah.
that's a good thing. I mean,
Yep.
we've seen the numbers bump, but not tremendously.
Okay, got it. Alrighty, let's see. Rob Lowe, what's going to happen in Columbus? Anything we need to know?
Sorry, trouble clicking there. Pretty status quo, nothing new in the last week or so.
Okay, I was looking forward to, I was going through our talks. I mean, you got the copy of the agenda for Las Vegas, right? So
Yes, sir.
looks like we're going to give a good bunch of talks there. So thank you so much for your help on that. I really appreciate it.
Excited to do it.
Yeah, so we'll have to, I'll just keep in mind either Sunday night or Monday night, I'm going to get the crew together and we're going to take you to a really cool place that Kelly and I know about. So, all right.
Okay, one possible conflict there is the fellowship fair is one of those nights. So we just need to watch out for that.
Can you find out what it is for me so I can know? I think think everybody's coming into town then. So by Sunday night, I think that might be the way to go. So we'll see about that. Okay?
I'll find out the fair.
Yeah. And I got to find if they're open then too, or if I could get it, they have room for us at the end, what night's good. It's going to be a good, cool place to take you to. So we need to do a Bagel Mania run too, right? Right, Kelly? That'll be kind of fun. All right. So let's see. Hey, since we have you on here today, there was someone I wanted to ask a question to. Matt Levy. Hey, Matt, do you like to pronounce your last name Levy or Levy?
Oh, hey, everybody. I go by Levy, but either one is fine.
No, that's okay. I want to know. That's okay. We can do it in the future. Whereas our friend in Anchorage has Levy, right? So that's why I wanted.
Yeah,
to
that's the running joke. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So we'll give you a little Levy and him a little leverage. Okay, so okay.
Right. Thank you.
So go ahead. Hey Matt. So anything you need to tell us, or thanks for being.
Thank you for having me. Good to see everybody. Just very quickly, Paul, you had asked me to touch on the infrared scanner, for head injuries last week.
Oh yeah,
I know we're short on time.
Can you remind me, and then let's do a formal presentation on it next week, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I have a very short 5-minute presentation. We can do it next week. I'll text you next week.
Yeah, text you, remind me, especially on Thursday would be helpful so that I remember to put it on. Okay, that's fantastic then. Okay, yeah, I do want to. Yeah, I'll try to write it down and see if I can remember. So we've got okay, Matt infrared, right? Okay, and then
that's right.
Okay, and then let's see, Matt for infrared, and then we have we're going to talk about what do you call it? Whooping cough. Okay, I think what was it? Eileen going to talk about pertussis. Okay. I got it. I'm sorry. I got to keep up on this so I don't lose it there. All right. Sounds good. And then, here we go. The fair is Sunday night, 5 to 7. Well, then that's okay. Cause we'll go to dinner after 7. That's what we'll do, Rob, either way, if I do it Sunday night. So, okay. All righty. So then, we had a question up, AJ, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was going to tell Kelly, number one, that I sent you, send me an email and I'll get you in touch with San Diego Fire Rescue's Battalion Chief. And then the second thing is we've had 11 Navy SEALs now identified as having committed suicide and have donated their brains. And the results that was in the New York Times the other day showed that it wasn't from PTSD, but the way they train with so much live ammunition that they've suffered brain injuries. So it's just an important article.
Yeah. Is that what you sent me, by the way?
No.
Okay, something else. Okay, yeah, just curious.
It was musical.
Okay, okay, got it. Let's see. Alrighty, anything else then, AJ, while I got you on there?
No, sir.
Okay, good. Thank you so much then. Let me see, who have I missed here? Roger, anything out of Montgomery County and quick? I got 1 minute left.
No, just just fine tuning the day on our whole blood program. And also I had an ongoing question. Someone had mentioned utilizing the urgent care system within their city as one of the possibilities to decompress the EDs in disastrous situations. One of the questions I had separately from the freestanding ED paradigm, where there's usually a physician present and they have more capabilities, is how much do your urgent cares, if they're staffed by just NPs, a phone call from an ED doc, how effective are they of not just adding census, because the people who come to them or are sent to them by an ambulance, they turn around and call you right back because it's beyond their capability. So that was an area of interest in mine to TAP. I didn't think it'd been discussed recently, but I was just curious about how much your urgent cares add to the alternative transportation paradigm. In Montgomery County, we've had very limited success with that, even though it's part of our optional supplemental protocols.
All right, Emily, did you take that one in? Are you still on?
Yeah, I'm still on. Yeah, so we only transport to hospital-based freestanding emergency departments. Not urgent cares and not independently owned, just because they don't have the regulatory oversight that the hospital-based ones do. During the ET3 days, I had very limited success in getting them to even participate in that program. So, you know, and not only that, it's, you know, we don't get reimbursed. And like you said, there's not a physician at most of them. And so I don't even attempt to utilize those facilities, only the hospital-based freestandings. And they've been very, very helpful and great partners.
Thank you so much. Just FYI, that is the Maryland, that is also the Maryland model. Yeah, the freestandings are hospital-based in terms of being 911 receiving facilities. I appreciate that that input, because I was wondering when you talked about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And feel free to contact me if you have any other. We have a bunch of different options in Texas. I'm happy to talk with you anytime.
Hey, Emily, anything else then while I got you on there?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, thank you.
Good to see everyone.
Yeah, thank you for all your contributions today. I really appreciate it. Okay, so it's really great to have you on. AJ, did you have your hand up for a reason, or just by accident, or that was old? Okay, Terry, anything from Tucson?
No, but I was hoping that you could get Kim on next week, because on my newsfeed there was a big article about how she's getting killed with heat illnesses, and
Kim Pruitt?
I'd like to hear from her about what's going on.
Yeah.
Heat illnesses in Albuquerque.
Yeah. The problem with Kim is she loves being on with us, you know, and she's so terrific. The problem is that she has a meeting with the state, like the governor's office or so at a very high level. That's what they have it scheduled, and she can't get out. But she sometimes slip out for a minute or two. So I'll call her and say that, let me put it down on my list of people I gotta do next week. So Kim and Heat. Okay, Kim Pruitt and Heat. Okay, I'll see. Sometimes she can get on for a couple of minutes and all that kind of thing. So, alrighty. Well, listen, thank you so much, everyone, and for another show. See you back next week for the show that never ends. And appreciate everybody being here. Oh, Kelly, thank you for putting out the CME code. God, I'm sorry about that. That didn't get it out to everybody today. So CME code was 19410, 19410. And for those who were on the prior call for Florida, it was 19411. And appreciate you putting that on for me, Kelly. That means a lot. Okay.
Got it.
All right, everyone. We'll see you later. And looking forward to next week and all that when I'll be a year older. I'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.